Subtle results, still you, but with fewer lines. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Here's what Justice Barrett writes. By the end of the Biden administration, we had reached a state of affairs where almost every major presidential action was immediately frozen by a federal district court. As the number of universal injunctions has increased, so too has the importance of this issue. And I think that's a nice encapsulation of why this is such a big win for the Trump administration. And not just Donald John Trump, the person, but the office of the president. Whoever comes next is going to get the benefit of this ruling too. And it's going to make it much harder, not impossible, but much harder for a single district court judge in Maryland or Wyoming or where have you to say, I'm blocking the president's action nationwide. It's going to be much harder to do that.
I just want to note the Democratic appointees' strong dissents in this case. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson calls the court's decision an existential threat to the rule of law. Justice Sotomayor's dissent says no right is safe in the new legal regime the court creates. She calls the court complicit in a grave attack on our system of law. The reality is the Supreme Court's Republican justices took away lower courts' single powerful tool, the most powerful tool for reining in the Trump administration and holding them accountable to the law.
The Supreme Court has turned the universal injunctions into fish food, as well it should have. There's no basis in statute. There's no basis in Supreme Court precedent. There's no basis in English common law for universal injunctions. Judges who just dislike what Congress and any president has done just made them up. And good riddance. I'm proud of the Supreme Court. It's a very extensive ruling. You can tell it from Justice Jackson's dissent. She's mad as a bag of cats, and that's probably a good thing for the American people. Look.
What a day. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, here we are on the It's Friday again edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour, a momentous day for law, order, the Constitution of these United States. The Supreme Court of the United States has finally done the work that Congress wouldn't do and put a stop to these mindless attacks on the executive branch from individual political hack, biased, hopelessly rogue judges in many cases. Not saying all, in many cases. As Pam Bondy, when she spoke this afternoon, noted, where these cases came from, the number of cases that were coming from clearly deep blue jurisdictions, districts, lets you know that the politics was involved. Now, it wasn't only this huge ruling, of course, on the birthright citizenship case, which is still lingering out there because the justices did not weigh the merits of that particular issue. They just sent it back to the lower courts with their instructions limiting these universal injunctions arising from district court. So the issue of birthright citizenship will have to go back to the lower courts. But in the meantime, this is a monumental decision to strip away from these biased political hack judges the right to determine policy that rightly. Wait a minute, let me see. Don't know if you saw this. Yes, of course I saw it. I'm the host. Elena Kagan, of course, flipped view since 2022. Back then, she was worried, Joe Biden, that of all these injunctions, and that gave courts, people watching the court observers, the idea that she might actually rule against these, and not so. She joined with the other three Karens. I'm sorry, the other three, the other two liberal ladies on the court. Ketanji Jackson, like I said, her dissent, the outrage pouring out of the left today, left media, left analysts, is something to delight in. It is palpable and it is delicious. Donald Trump did speak to the media after this momentous ruling, and I just want to say that wasn't the only great ruling. Yesterday, we spent some time talking about the case that was going to be decided out in Maryland, Montgomery County, Maryland, where these professional liberal groomers have decided that the best way they can advance their ideology is to force children and to read LGBTQ literature in school and give parents attending public school no say as to what their children are reading, even if it conflicts with their religious values. Well, the Supreme Court today put the kibosh on that too. And the great thing about that ruling, look, folks, these parents, and they were these parents come from different religious backgrounds. From Christianity, Islam, Jewish faith, all of them. Parents had no right to say what was going on. And what I like about this ruling is what the parents wanted. They didn't say, you can't teach this. They weren't looking to upend the teaching of this material in schools. They just wanted something simple. Look, go ahead and teach it, but this conflicts with our religious values, so I want to pull my kid out of that course. No, you can't do it. Your kid must take it down the throat. Our ideology. Your kid has to. We're not letting your kid out unless they're properly groomed, unless they're properly indoctrinated into this belief system. So the Supreme Court put the kibosh on that too. That, of course, in fact, I'll get to that story. That's causing a little bit of upset too. What a day. Cut two. Let's hear from President Trump.
A big decision. An amazing decision, one that we're very happy about. This morning, the Supreme Court has delivered a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law in striking down the excessive use of nationwide injunctions to interfere with the normal functioning of the executive branch. The Supreme Court has stopped the presidency itself. That's what they've done. And really, it's been an amazing period of time this last hour. There are people elated all over the country. I've seen such happiness and spirit. Sometimes you don't see that, but this case is very important. I was elected on a historic mandate, but in recent months we've seen a handful of radical left judges effectively try to overrule the rightful powers of the president to stop the American people from getting the policies that they voted for in record numbers. It was a grave threat to democracy, frankly, and instead of merely ruling on the immediate cases before them, these judges have attempted to dictate the law for the entire nation. In practice, this meant that if any one of the nearly 700 federal judges disagreed with the policy of a duly elected president of the United States, he or she could block that policy from going into effect or at least delay it for many years, tie it up in the court system. This was a colossal abuse of power which never occurred in American history prior to recent decades, and we've been hit with more nationwide injunctions than were issued in the entire 20th century together. Think of it, more than the entire 20th century, me. I'm grateful to the Supreme Court for stepping in and solving this very, very big and complex problem, and they've made it very simple. I want to thank Justice Barrett, who wrote the opinion brilliantly, as well as Chief Justice Roberts, and Justices Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Thomas. Great people. Thanks for this decision, and thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now properly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending
yes, it was a good day. And he went on to talk about some of the cases that are going to be affected, and there are a variety of them. We are going to hear from Pam Bondy. We're going to hear from so many others. I want to get to some of these other cases too. Supreme Court, busy. This has been an incredible week for the presidency of Donald J. Trump. Incredible. So, James Golden, Snerdley, it is the fastest hour in American media. 2009, on this day, Black Eyed Peas go to number 1 on the U.S. album charts. The END, the group's 5th studio album, gave us this single that was their lead single from the album, Boom Boom Pow. That's kind of what happened today in Washington, D.C.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
1987, Whitney enters the album charts at number 1. First time ever in U.S. history, a woman enters the chart in the number 1 position. Whitney Houston, 1987. The album, of course, Whitney, this one of the singles that went number 1 from that album. I Want to Dance with Somebody. What a great career that was all too short due to... what a waste. James Golden, Snerdley with you here. It is the Friday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour, fastest hour in American media. The more that you look into these rulings, and it's going to take some time before they are fully digested, but this is just so brilliant. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? Liberals do this to themselves. They have foisted themselves on their own petard once again. If they had been more judicious in the use of these nationwide injunctions, this case would have never come up. Let's say instead of this flurry of these flurries of injunctions, had they just limited to 1 or 2 national injunctions, maybe birthright or maybe something else that they deemed, for their party to be one of the bulwark issues, it is doubtful that the Supreme Court would have taken this on. But no, their hatred of Donald Trump led to every single one of these rogue judges, the ones that are rogue, wanting to get there. Me too. I want to stop him. Let's be part of the resistance. And so you had injunction after injunction after injunction to the point that the Supreme Court had to act. Rush used to say this all the time about how this Democrat Party, they always overplay their hand. And this is what has happened once again. They have overplayed their hand. And as a result, now, they did the same thing, by the way, with the filibuster in the United States Senate, Harry Reid. Harry Reid decides they get ticked off at Republicans. All right, we're going to take away the filibuster for judges. We're going to take it away from those damn Republicans. Okay. And now they have made it easier for Republicans to get justices that they want on the courts. Nice going, Harry. He's passed away. But anyway, they overplay their hand consistently. All right, I want to get something else in here, by the way. This is a moment that was funny. Cut 3. Donald Trump this is a long press conference, too. And he finally says this, and listen to the reaction from the press corps.
By the way, so many questions. Should we keep this going, Pam? This is the opposite of Biden. Biden would take a half a question and he'd leave without answering it.
Should we keep this going? The press, yeah, keep it going. This guy's just question after question. Let's get to some of those questions. He was asked, we don't have time for cut 5. Okay. Let's play cut 6 very quickly. We may have time for most of it.
Mr. President, a leading global economist just did a 180 and says your tariff plan, you may have outsmarted everybody with it. What is your message?
I love this. I love this question. This is the favorite. This is the best question I've ever been asked because I've been going through abuse for years on this. Because as you know, we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars, no inflation whatsoever.
But, Mr. President, what is your message to critics who think your tariff plan will cause a recession?
I think they should go back to business school. It's so obvious.
James Golden, Snerdley on the fastest hour in American media. Keep it right here, whatever you do, don't go away. We've got so much more coming. Man, I can't wait for tomorrow, too. The Saturday program, Anyway, keep it right here, don't go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
You know, folks, I don't watch the Today Show. I like my days to start nice. And I don't watch any of that stuff in the morning. I can't abide the idea of first thing I get immersed with liberalism in the morning. But today, for those of you that do watch that stuff, you must have been shocked. I mean, absolutely shocked when you heard this.
Let's start with this good news. Gas prices down. Will they continue to drop, or is it too early to tell, Christine?
You know, we think they might. A lot of experts looking, as long as you don't get a really bad hurricane season or you don't get any supply disruptions. So really looking at gas prices that are best in 4 years. And this is so important for all of those millions of people who will be hitting the roads starting on Tuesday. That's when this starts, July 1st, Tuesday through the next Monday. That's the big travel period for people who are driving. And you've got these gas prices, about $3.20, 3.21 cents. That's really a decent price considering 20 cents less than it was a year ago. So that's $6 or $7 extra when you fill up. That's real money.
Yeah. Good news. Of course, they didn't mention why that good news is happening. But they don't have to. We already know. 1970, J5. J5, number one for 2 weeks with this one, 1970. I tell you, the end of this song, the way they vamp out, you really get a taste of the interaction at the end of this between Michael and Jermaine. That's Jermaine right there. They were rocking. I'm sorry, the J5 rocked. Oh. James Golden and Snerdley. Okay, let's get back to it. Let's go now to some of the other things that happened in that press conference. Very quickly, cut 4. Donald Trump addresses the Maryland case. And this is how that came up in the press conference.
With religious objections, can pull their kids out of public school lessons that use LGBTQ materials. Pam brought it up. Your reaction to that ruling today, sir?
I think the ruling was a great ruling, and I think it's a great ruling for parents. It's really a ruling for parents. They lost control of the schools. They lost control of their child. And this is a tremendous victory for parents. And I'm not surprised by it, but I am surprised that it went this far. It took us to bring life back to normal. So it's wonderful. It's parental. And I kept saying, we will give you back your parental rights. They were taken away, and this is a tremendous victory for parents. Yeah.
Mr. President. Education Secretary Linda McMahon also spoke about it, that 17, Jonas. And this is how she framed it. The case is Mahmoud versus Rayler. It's a major, major, major win for religious liberty in this country.
The Supreme Court ruling in Mahmoud versus Taylor is not only a win for religious liberty, but parental rights. Parents have the right to know what their children are learning at school and to exercise their First Amendment freedom of religion to opt out of divisive and ideological lessons that go against their family's values and beliefs. The court rightfully held that schools cannot shut parents out or disregard their religious obligations to their children. We are proud to see families, not bureaucrats, reclaiming their role in raising their children according to their sincerely held religious beliefs.
Well, that all makes sense to us, but I'm telling you right now, the left is very, very unhappy with this, especially in the liberal bastion of Montgomery County. I cannot tell you how much I absolutely despise the liberalism that permeates that place. I spent a lot of time in Montgomery County. It is liberalism. If you could surgically take Montgomery County out of the state of Maryland and plop it there right next to San Francisco or LA, take your pick, it would fit right into Californicate. Same kind of craziness, same kind of overbearing, self-righteousness from these total liberals who have no tolerance for anyone's views but their own. And so the Supreme Court came in. There's a website, WUSA9.com, that covers Maryland, and they were able to talk to some of the people involved in the case. A joint statement, this was moments after the decision was reached, a joint statement from Montgomery County Public Schools and the Montgomery County Board of Education said the Supreme Court's decision represented a significant challenge for public education. These obnoxious Montgomery Council member Evan Glass, the first openly LGBTQ member to sit on the council, described the decision as a painful setback. The ruling sends a chilling message, one that threatens to roll back the progress we fought so hard to make. What progress? The progress of indoctrinating people's children to their belief system. And again, nobody that brought these cases was saying, don't teach this stuff. They were not saying kick it out of the school. Don't put it in the school. All they were saying is, fine, you want to have that in the school. We're not going to argue with you about that. All we want to do is make sure that children that have a religious background, a religious set of beliefs, don't have to sit and listen to your indoctrination. Every single one of these liberals, I heard Jamie Raskin, I didn't have time to get it into today's show. Jamie Raskin going on and on about this case, that now anybody can say can opt out of anything. And he and these liberals seem to forget something. This country was founded on the principle of religious liberty. That is the First Amendment. Along with freedom of speech comes the idea, why was this country founded? It was founded. I sound like Letitia James. It was founded on the principle that people had a right to practice their religion, and further, that the government had no right, absolutely zero right, to step in and tell religious people how they can practice their religion. And for these freaking liberals in Maryland to think that they have the right to step on people's religion, whatever their religious beliefs are regarding sexuality, is their business. How they want to teach their kids is their business. And nobody in the state of Maryland, nobody from any school board, nobody from any government institution, nobody from the governor's office on down or on up down to the sewer of these legislatures that happen to come up with this stuff in Maryland. Nobody has a right to step in between the parents and what they teach their children religiously. And I am so happy that the Supreme Court has finally laid it down. This should have never gone to the Supreme Court. If people understood the freaking Constitution of the United States, it's there in black and white. You don't even have to look hard. Just go. Look at the First Amendment to the Constitution. It's right there in black and white. But no, everything that religious people believes, these people want to turn into something as discriminatory because it doesn't coincide with how they want to gratify their own lives. So your religion be damned. Your religious views be damned. They're going to indoctrinate your kids into this left-wing ideology no matter what you have to say. Well, guess what, baby? It just ended in Maryland today. And I'm happy about it. Okay, moving on. Pam Bondy. Let's get to that. Just hit 9 and 10 back to back. Let's listen to our Attorney General, Pam Bondy.
Judges have used these injunctions to block virtually all of President Trump's policies. To put this in perspective, there are 94 federal judicial districts. 5 of those districts throughout this country held 35 of the nationwide injunctions. Think about that. 94 districts and 35 out of the 40 opinions with nationwide injunctions came from 5 liberal districts in this country. No longer. It's case by case. Let me reiterate, of the 35 of the 40 nationwide injunctions filed against this president, against his executive authority as president of the United States, 35 of them came from Maryland, D.C., Massachusetts, California, Washington. I mean, that's crazy. These 5 districts. So, yes, it indirectly impacts us. It will be a separate decision in October. Next question.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, some of the questions that come from some of these reporters, too, are just amazing. Go to cut 11. Let's hear this. Some of these questions are just Just
if you have an undocumented baby, would that baby then be an enforcement priority?
The violent criminals in our country are the priority now. Let me put it in perspective. Today marked the 2,711th arrest in our country of TDA members, just TDA. Everyone in this room agrees they are one of the most violent criminal organizations in the world. And the Biden administration let them walk into our country for the last 4 years. 2,711 of them today have been arrested in our country. That is the priority of Donald Trump. That is the priority of this country, of Homeland Security, of all of our lawyers, of FBI. That's the priority. That will be discussed in October when the Supreme Court hopefully rules in our favor, and we're very confident of that. But you should all feel safer now that President Trump can deport all of these gangs, and not one district court judge can think they're an emperor over this administration and his executive powers and why the people of the United States elected him.
And in case, that question, by the way, which you did not hear all of, well, that's with citizen birthright. Basically, the reporter was trying to ask, so how are you going to do this? Are you going to have doctors and nurses deciding which babies are citizens and not? And what are you going to do? Deport the babies? Wait, I mean, these people. Anyway, the ACLU, as predicted, is not happening. That's cut 12. And let's listen to their director, Cecilia Wang.
There are still many open pathways to block President Trump's illegal and unconstitutional birthright citizenship order and ensure that all babies born in the U.S. are equal citizens, as the rule has been in our country since the end of the Civil War. The case that the ACLU has brought with partner organizations will continue. We'll be filing a motion for class certification today. And that's one of the ways in which people who are harmed around the country by President Trump's effort to end birthright citizenship will be able to go and get protection from the courts for this fundamental American right.
This fundamental American right that came after the Civil War, and we're going to try it. They always do that speak up at the end of the sentence. It's just strange speaking thing. The liberals, they always go up at the end, the sentence. Anyway, look, folks, here's the skinny on this. And they all point to this. This has been around since the end of the Civil War. Yesterday, I talked about the reconciliation bill and that whole weed wrangle of mishmash that takes place in the swamp. That's been around since 1974. And what liberals always count on, the longer something's been around, they think nobody has the right to change it. If it is being abused, and it has been being abused, it should be subject to change. Remember all this business about the Constitution being a living document? And all these things being a living document. Well, it's alive. And right now it needs some help. So it's the only reason that nobody has challenged it up till now is because we haven't had a president with the guts that Donald Trump has to actually say, this is crazy. This is wrong. And it needs to be changed. And so it doesn't matter whether it's been around since the Civil War. It is still being abused. It is wrong. And so, yes, there are going to be some fresh eyes put on it because finally there is a president who has the onions to do what other people think is political suicide by actually bringing up matters and forcing these matters to the forefront. That's because he has the onions to do it. Oh, Doc Thomas, American singer-songwriter, blues singer, the lyricist of this one. Oh man, so beautiful. And there's a story behind this song. that I don't have time to get to right now. I learned it on this show. A listener called in and told me the backstory of this, about this song, and it is remarkable. Anyway, we got to go. James Golden, Snerdley, keep it right here. Fastest hour in American media continues. Don't go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, that bass play is rocking. And it is Chris Squire, who was the bass guitarist and co-founder of Yes, passed away at age 67. On this day in 2015, the only member of the group to appear on every one of their studio albums from 1969 to 2014. Just an amazing bass player. Chris Squire with Yes. Wow. Okay, we only have a minute left. Zoran Mondani. He's been having a battle of words with Tom Homan. This is him today.
Game on. He's coming. What do you say?
That I'm going to be here to stand up and fight back. And unlike the current mayor, I'm not going to be working alongside the Trump administration to build the single largest deportation force in American history. I'm going to actually represent each and every New Yorker. And that includes immigrant New Yorkers. And that means standing up for the laws of this city, like our sanctuary city policies, which have kept New Yorkers safe for decades and were defended by Republicans and Democrats alike for years until we got this mayor who fear-mongered about them so extensively.
Does that involve the NYPD?
It means that the NYPD would actually serve New Yorkers and not assist ICE in their operations. We recently saw ICE agents.
So they would not assist ICE?
Not assisting ICE, because ultimately their job is public safety.
All right, so he wants a war with the federal government, with the Trump administration. He wants a war with Tom Homan. Marco Rubio, Tom Homan, Ice Barbie. Listen, this guy was a non-citizen until 6-7 years ago. And there are all kind of allegations being made now about his activities, his links to other group. I believe that there should be a full investigation into his past. And if he wants to break American law, federal law, revoke his citizenship and deport his ass back to where he came from. Really simple. We got to go. May God bless, protect each and every single one of you, your family, your loved ones. Love and gratitude for your being here with me, allowing me, my friends, to be with you. God willing, we are back in the morning, very early, 7 a.m. Hope you're here, too. In the meantime, in between time, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?